Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, January 27th, 2025. We're almost done with January already. Can you imagine that? Just that quick. Blink of an eye. Gone. That's what happens when you get older and life just starts to speed up and pass you by. It's also that way whenever you're really busy and you're trying to do things and take care of all kinds of different stuff as well. And time tends to escape us and get away from us. So let's take some time together and talk about cars and stuff. Now, let me start off by saying I hope everybody is safe and sound. We've had some cold weather. We've had some better weather. Right now, it's about 50 degrees outside here in Georgia, just south of Atlanta, and I'm happy about that. But now we're getting rain. We're starting to get moisture coming in, and that's just the way it is. It happens every spring. We've got to have rain. Got to have that. Temperatures will pick up, and of course, everything will bloom, and it'll be nice again. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Now, if you're new to my channel or new to my live streams, I try to do this every Monday night at 7 o'clock, and I intend to try to either talk about or share information that you may be able to use on your projects, or if you have a question or a comment that is relatable to our subject matter, by all means, I ask you to be part of that. If you want to bring up a question, ask it. We'll see if we can't help solve a problem. We've helped a lot of people solve problems in doing these sort of live streams in many, many different ways. So my focus personally is classic cars, and I say that relative to 55 to about 79, 80, 81, somewhere in that range. That's what I'm most familiar with. To give you some other background, I am an aircraft mechanic with over 30 years of experience, and that carries over into what I do here in building vehicles. My dad had a junkyard growing up, so I've been around cars literally since I was born and have seen thousands of cars before my eyes that I've worked on and tuned on or taken apart and put back together, raced stock cars, a whole bunch of stuff. All kinds of stuff. And it's funny that I had this memory the other day. And this isn't really one of the junkyard stories, but this is just a realization of how many times that I'm lucky to be alive. I was out walking in the snow. Well, we had snow, I was helping direct some traffic. There was cars getting stuck in a ditch. There was all kinds of stuff going on near our street. And so I went out and I was helping with that in the middle of the night. And the roads were here when they get cold and people drive. They don't know how to drive in the snow or ice or anything. And so the roads were packed with a dense, very dense snow that was very ice-like. It was very slippery. But I was out there and helping, try to keep people as safe as I could. Now, I think about those things or I think about events that I've been through that it's like I shouldn't have survived that. And there's a variety of things that come into mind, from being in snow relatable type of accidents and different things, to driving stock cars, to riding around on go-karts that don't have any brakes and no throttle control, and just all kinds of stuff. And it's even when I crashed the little four-wheel thing that I had out here, smacked my head off the roll bar, and even in that incident, I could have easily been probably permanently injured. So there's a lot of things that I'm grateful for and thankful that I've survived all these years. And I think a lot of us have been in those brackets, but those situations. I say brackets, but brackets of time. But I think I was exposed to so much at the junkyard, so many dangerous things that I've talked about before, and just near misses. It's amazing that I have all 10 fingers, and just surprises me whenever I see people sometimes, and I look at something they're doing and I'm like, oh, don't do that. I've been down that path. Don't go that way. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get hurt. So anyway, just some random thoughts going through my head over the past couple days. Now, I hope we have a good turnout tonight. I hope we have a good bit of people involved. We typically have about 60 or 70 that show up, and I know I have some that are local here to this area. Some people are at work tonight, Alan, and checking out my channel while they're at work. And we're going to bring up some conversation about some things going on with some cars locally as well. So let's get started tonight and see who is here first. And first in is Rick Gain. Give a bell to Rick for showing up. Welcome all. Boat trailer jig takes too long to say. I think it needs a name, perhaps topic for discussion. Glad the 68 project is coming out well. Thank you, Rick. And that's a good idea. You talk about, I reference the boat trailer jig as the boat trailer jig. And I get what you're saying. And sometimes it's okay to have a name for different apparatus that you may have in your shop. I haven't really thought about changing the name because boat trailer jig kind of defines it, and nobody can question what that means. And if I give it a name, which I still may, that somebody go, what's that about, right? So I have to think about that perspective as well. But I do like the idea. Maybe BTJ. I don't know, but we'll see what comes up tonight as we talk about it. Dave Tyson checking in. Good evening, all. Evening, Dave. First Dave sighting. Donnie Williams, welcome, Donnie. Glad to have you. Terry Keithley checking in. Hello, everyone. And Barry, please hit the like and thumbs up for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry, Betty, and the cats. Jerry, he's responding to Jerry, one of our other viewers, of course, to say, "Yay, Buckeyes." So Buckeyes, I guess football or something. Rick Stevenson, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rick. And I can get my first sip of coffee when Rick shows up. So thank you, Rick. Glad you're here. Travis Holtman, good evening, all. I hope you're all having a great day. It's warming up a little in Utah. Got my first test fit done this weekend. Dynacorn trunk lid is twisted. So looking for an original. Okay, I get that. Welcome, Travis. My number one patron, by the way. Travis, so when you say it's twisted, let me ask you some questions about that. The twisted like this direction, not side to side, I assume. And I've talked about this, and I don't know if this is a situation or not, but I have talked about this previously, and I've demonstrated this as well. The aftermarket trunk lids and hoods, typically, even the doors, can be manipulated. So if it's twisted, and I get the idea of looking for an original, I have no problem with that. I would prefer original anyway. But the twisted, you'd be surprised what you can make happen just grabbing it with your hands and manipulating it. Now, what I've done in many, many occasions, whether it's a hood or a deck lid, I have manipulated the hood to where it needs to fit or it should fit, and knowing that it's in the right spot, I've tack welded it so it can't twist anymore. And I've done that with deck lids, and I've done that a variety of times. So consider that as well. And it may be that it's no good. I get it. But if it's something you're interested in saving or using, try that. Try to give it a little bit of a push here and there and see what happens. I had to do a lot of that on the light blue Mustang in particular. In fact, I had to like twist the quarter panels. They were not lining up on that car, and man, I did a lot of manipulating to make that thing come together. But and of course that was one of my earlier projects that I did, and the sheet metal was, it was okay. It wasn't great. So give it a shot and think about doing that, tack welding the perimeter if you get it in the right shape. The bowler hat guy checking in, David. Good evening, all. Hello, Barry. Hello, David. Glad you're here. Steve's Money Pit. Good evening from not so cold but windy Wisconsin in the 30s, but wind gusts in the 30s to 40s. Okay. I don't want to eat any of that. But I'm glad it's a little warmer there. Robert checking in. Evening, all. Evening, Robert. The Infernal Craftsman. So, If you haven't already, I make sure that everybody checks out Robert's channel as well. Go watch some stuff that he's doing. Black GTX, good evening, all from Minnesota. It's a balmy 35 degrees, which is 50 degrees warmer than a week ago. Welcome, Black GTX. I want to say Mark. Tell me if I'm wrong. Dave Convo, good evening, all from New Jersey. Welcome, Dave. Troy Justit. Hey, all, it's finally starting to warm up here in coastal Georgia. Yes. Yeah, it is here, too. I'm just looking forward to the next week or so. Gotta take advantage of it. Now, it's still not warm enough to paint. We all know that. But it's getting much, much better. Bob Shoemaker, good evening, all from Oklahoma. Welcome, Bob. Whoops. Where everything is okay, right? Rick Stevenson, it finally got up into the 70s here in Jacksonville today. Thought I was going to freeze at the Rolex last weekend. Mustang for the win in GTD Pro. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Mustang for the win. That's awesome. Robert says, can we rewind so summer is further away? No, nope, not happening. Not happening. Jeff Davis, Barry, I thought January is lasting forever. Welcome, Jeff. I sure hope not. We're getting close to the end. Steve's Money Pit, give Barry a thumbs up. He needs a little, all the help he can get. He doesn't have a Mopar. You're right. I don't have a Mopar. And that's a good time maybe to talk about some things before I get too far down the list. But let me bring it up later. I don't have a Mopar, but I would like to get a hold of my '67 Plymouth again. And it's still possible. But I don't know what I'd do with it. 67 GTX clone that I had. So we'll never know. Maybe I can still get it. I know where it's at. I think I know where it's at. But probably not worth the effort. Stab the Dab. I'm happy January is coming to an end. Welcome, Stab. Yes. I'm looking forward to March, I think, is probably where my window of opportunity is to come, do paint work. Daryl Horvath. Welcome, Daryl. Oh, I see your thumbnail. I know it's a fastback, but I can't really tell what it is exactly. I'm guessing 67, 68. It's very tiny on my screen, so I can't tell for sure. But hello from icy Toronto, the Great White North, negative 15 degrees Celsius. Welcome, Daryl. I'm glad you're here. Stay warm. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. I hope you all have good car talk. Terry says, yay, Buckeye. Terry, yay, Buckeyes. I told Robert I was a winner, but he didn't agree. Doesn't matter because we are national champions. Okay, welcome, Jerry. Glad you're here. Go team. Rusty's Restoration. Hello, all. And Barry from Southern Indiana. Thumbs up, everyone. The 68 is looking great. Thank you, Rusty. I agree. And the cowl should be here Thursday. I'm looking forward to getting that tested up in there and see how it goes. Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry. Evening, Richard. Glad you're here. Troy, the fastback looks really good in the background. I really liked the video, watching you put it together. Well, thank you, Troy. That was kind of a, I won't say a second thought, because I did all the assembly minus the roof. And I had Roger come over from next door, hindsight 6/7, and he gave me a hand setting the roof on because I didn't know what to expect. And when I get kind of apprehensive and I don't want to have something bend or tweak or break or whatever, or fall through, so it's nice to have a second set of hands to get that up in place. And then he helped me put that on, and then the roof on, and we discussed some things with it. And later on I realized that I needed to do another sequence of the assembly. So I took it apart, which I had to do anyway, and went through that overshoot type of situation where I put it back together and put the roof on it. And it all went pretty smooth. I mean, I almost thought about, I don't know if it's worth it or not. I have a whole nother sequence of video of just putting it together, but not from an overhead shot. It's as I assembled it. Like I set the camera further away. You can probably see it in that time lapse or the sequence that you'll see the other camera. And I did think about just putting that video together and just put it out there. I don't know. Somebody might like to see that as well. Oh, and just to give you an idea. Now the advantage too is I have a jig, right, that I made for this purpose. Even with filming and moving the camera, and having resetting all the stuff that I did, it basically took 28 minutes to put all these pieces on as they are. Now that's not fitting them, that is not making them perfect. That is just getting it all assembled, which is not the end result that you want. It's more of just showing how quickly you can put the pieces together. So, but this will come apart and go to be multiple times before everything is zeroed out. And in the next video, I'm working on more of the details of fitment things and what you have to do to manipulate the parts, let's say, to get them to go where you want them. So, thank you, Troy. Daryl says, I'm retiring, 36-year airline captain with all the time in the world now for my 67 Fastback. Well, you say that. You say you have all the time in the world. Congratulations on a 36-year career as an airline pilot. That's pretty awesome. I know quite a few pilots. So I'm glad that people like me were able to keep people like you flying. That's what I did, fixed airplanes. So that's awesome that you're able to retire, and hopefully you do find time to do all you want to the 67 Fastback as well. Daryl says, bought the Art Captain welder you have with your code. Thanks. Awesome. Good deal. Appreciate that. Robert, hello all from Idaho. Well, hello, Robert. Welcome. Biddy Thornburg, I'm here. You are here. Welcome, Biddy. PTL Fabrication, hello from Dave in Wintery, Pennsylvania. Yeah, well, thank you for being here, Dave. And yeah, you can have all that winter. I don't want any of that. Amateur Hour Restoration, Slowberry and all, starting to warm up here in Indiana, finally. Yes. Amen to that. We need more. Rusty's Restoration is referring to the boat trailer jig. It's hard to say, actually, as BTJ 1000. Yeah, that's... Or it could be BTJ Mark 1. Like, that's my first version of it. Because I know, I'm always talking about it. I'm already thinking of different ways to improve what I have. It's just the way my mind works. I go through a process and it's like, I could do this or I could do that. And yeah, so it could be BTJ Mark 1. I like it though, Rusty. I do. Troy Dustit, before I forget, how about those Eagles? Yep. I'll say this. The Eagles are a powerful team. I give them credit for doing what they did. I do. And, I give the Kansas City Chiefs, they did what they did with the help of the referees and, the home field advantage. So, okay, enough about that. We'll move on. Travis says, yeah, I'm going to try and fix it this weekend. It sure looks square, but putting it on a flat table, it's off by about 3/4 of an inch. Thanks for the info. I'll try it. Yeah. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, and it's okay to use the table as a reference. That's great. I would rather make it, try to tweak it and see if I can make it fit the car. Because the cars, we know, they could be all over the place. And that's where the advantage of being able to manipulate that deck lid comes into play. So yeah, give it a shot. C&J Hoyt, hello all. The other day, a 19-year-old posted that he got a 66 Stang, and people were bashing him for it. Why are people so mean? He has the rest of his life to put it together. Yeah. And I don't know if you're talking about on Facebook or not. I did. I think I commented on that. But yeah, it's. I get it. Some people. Now there was one person that had posted something, and the car they were trying to do, I gave them a referral saying this may be a little much, and in this case it was. The car was really, really, really bad. So there are times where I want to be cautious to let people, be cautious and say, I want you to think about what you're going to invest in this. Now, granted, a 19-year-old kid probably doesn't have money to throw around and do these sort of things. And some people are obviously mean to the situation. If I tell somebody, hey, I've done a lot of these. I think in one situation I commented, I've done a lot of these, and this may be a little too much to do. Now, coming from me, I think that means a lot because I don't see anything as completely not savable. There's always an avenue of attack, right? Different ways you can look at it. But some people are brutally mean, and I try to avoid that. I try to stay out of those situations because it's just not the path that I want to be on. So, but I get it, and thank you for bringing that up. Michael Lies from Wisconsin, I think. Yeah, Wisconsin with the brown grass. Our snow was stolen by the South. Yeah, well, you can have it back now. We're done with it. Davis is really enjoying the Fangled videos. Thank you, sir. I'm enjoying making them and having people see them. So, I posted some other stuff again on Facebook, and it's funny because I did like a little clip, and I might have put it on YouTube too as a short. And I jokingly show a rusted out area on the coupe car and say, hey, I have some rust right here. What do I do about it? And I show the rest of the car all just cut to pieces. And a lot of people are taking me serious on that. They think I'm like, you have to know that I'm joking. You have to know that. But they really think I'm serious about it. And I get it. So they want to help. Some people are giving me, go get parts here, go get parts there. You need to cut this out and do that. And it's like, did you watch the whole video? Sometimes I wonder. Let's see. Gary, that's a different name. That's going to be a tough one. Gary Chocolat? It looks like chocolate, but I'm Chocolat. That's my guess. Gary Chocolat. That's what I'm saying. That's my answer. Welcome, Gary. I'm guessing that it was cheaper to buy the fastback parts instead of one of the dynacorn complete bodies. Overall, I would say yes. A couple reasons for that. There's a couple of scenarios here. One, they don't have the bodies in stock, so there's like a year wait. Two, the bodies, and I've known people who have bought the bodies from dynacorn and tried to put them together and ran into problems, and they ended up having to cut stuff apart, reposition metal to make everything fit. So I don't know if they've improved on that, but this is firsthand knowledge that I know of where people have had to separate panels and were very frustrated with the process. So in this method here, because I'm able to control all those parameters and I'm able to fine tune as I go, the end result should be a better product, as opposed to buying something that somebody put together and they may or may not have gotten it right on the money. So there's a couple ways that you can approach it, but yeah, it's cheaper overall, especially if you're doing it yourself, obviously, and if you have the capacity to do this kind of stuff, you will save yourself money by buying the parts. JJ's Shed, hello from Australia, 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll be right over. That's right in my wheelhouse. I like it. Welcome, JJ. Tim Miller, have you tried disc brakes? Disc brake, Scott Drake brake. Hold on. Have you tried disc brakes? Scott Drake rod and bracket for disc brakes. No booster. You got one, and you got one. You're going to try it. I have not. I have not tried the Scott Drake brake setup. So no. Welcome, Tim. Randall Rain says, hi, Barry. Hi, Randall. Welcome. New name, Matt MMC. Hi, Barry. Starting the work on getting the quarter panels lined up with the doors on the 70 Mach 1 this evening by following your advice on making some relief cuts to get it there. Awesome. Yeah. And that's another thing where I talk about, and I've shown it in videos and demonstrated it, that just because the quarter panel is stamped and this is what it's supposed to be like according to them, doesn't mean it's dead on. And in fact, I don't know if Dynacorn had followed my lead or not. On the 68, they already put those relief cuts in there so that you can bend the panel a little bit. So thankfully they did that, and I demonstrated a lot of that in my videos. You just have to be able to make room and make things happen. So I'm glad it's working for you. And also, lesson learned, don't use CJ Classic quarters. Sorry, man. Yeah, I don't really do much with CJ anymore. I mean, I'm going to go with Dynacorn if I get the chance. That's just the way I look at it. Randall says, is the Fangled Fastback yours, or are you building it for a customer? I'm building it for a customer. Yep, it's not mine. But if it were mine, I'd be doing the same thing, just like this. Travis says, any videos are good. I'm bored waiting until your next video. Oh, well, I apologize. I try. It's hard to, like, I could probably put out a 5 or 10 minute video every day, but I don't think it does justice to what I'm doing. And I'd rather do a 45-minute to an hour video at the end of the week. So yeah, I get it, but it's hard to be the one-man show that I am. Alan says, hi, Barry, thanks for stopping by today. Thank you, Alan. I was happy we were able to get together. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Black GTX, are those body panels bare metal? No, this is all covered in weld-through primer. It's all a silver weld-through primer. Good question. Betty says, go Buckeyes, national champions. Welcome, Betty. Yes, they are national champions. Steve's Money Pit says, boat jig. BJ. I don't know about that. Steve's Money Pit. Daryl, good luck finding that free time. I've been searching for about 15 years now and can't find it. Steve Reed, hello, Barry, and everyone, thumbs up for Barry. Yes, thank you, Steve. From Paducah, Kentucky. Rick Stevenson, the Coyote Mustang jig from Acme Industries. So you're saying that's the name of the boat trailer jig? Troy Just said, I had a UPS driver stop by my house and tell me I'm wasting my time replacing the rust. He said, just fiberglass over it. His brother does it all the time. I bid him a good day and closed the door. Just hide it. Just hide it. It's just like treating it. Just cover it up. Throw some paint on it. Nobody will ever know. Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to have that. Don't do that. Travis says 71 people watching. Yeah. I'm showing 67 right now, but thank you, Travis. Steve's Money Pit. I wanted to get an English wheel since I started. Harbor Freight was my plan, but funds never showed up. They closed out carrying them a year ago, but got lucky Friday. Got one new in box at Harbor Freight, $132. Really? I would have bought one of those had I known they were available. Betty Keithley says Kansas City Chiefs. Yes. Ronald Alcorn. Good evening, all. Good evening, Ronald. And Robert says, cover the car with structural paint and it'll be okay. Yep. Yep. For sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. Okay. So we're going to talk about something. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get Doug in. Doug Pinzer. Hello from upstate New York. What do you recommend primer-wise and prepping when using SEM trim black on chrome window molding? Well, that's a tough question there. What do you recommend primer-wise and prepping when using SEM trim black on chrome window molding? I've not done that. But my mind, is it actually chrome or is it the aluminum? Because if it's stainless, there's probably a different approach. So if you're using the aftermarket more aluminum stuff, that may be a little bit different. I think what typically would happen is people would scuff that pretty good and spray it with a self-etch and then cover it with the trim black. That would probably be the approach that I would take, is scuff it real good, make sure it's smooth, use a self-etching primer, and then trim black. So maybe we'll get some other input on that in just a minute. I see you said aftermarket aluminum. Yeah, that's probably the approach I would take. So I've not done that. I've not pursued that as an option. But that's probably how I would approach it. Gary says, the last name is Cherokee. I really enjoy your videos. Very informative. I hope to someday try the coupe to fastback conversion. Okay. That would be cool. Bobby Huez. Can I drop my 67 Mustang off at your shop? You probably could, but I have nowhere to put it. Nowhere to put the thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about something. Earlier today, I went to visit Alan. He doesn't live too far away from me. He's working on a convertible, 65, I believe it is, convertible. And the car has, it's got rust. It's had issues. It's had a life, as they all have. It's well over 50 some years old, whatever it is now, 60 years old, close to. And he had some questions for me. Now, I'm going to show you some pictures of his car, and I want some input on this. And let me show you this first picture, and just tell me what you see in this image. If anything pops out at you as being odd or out of place or anything like that. While I sip some coffee, I'll let you look at that picture. Because he has an issue that he's concerned with, and I don't blame him at all. And we're trying to resolve it and see what's going on. So now that you've seen that picture, I'm going to show you the second picture I took, and that is this picture. And that defines it a bit more as to what the concern is. So he's trying to get this car together to make it drivable and enjoy it. And, just for now, get it drivable and take it places and go get ice cream and stuff like that. And this doesn't make sense to me and to him. So I looked the car over. We did a variety of measurements. We compared the frame rails as far as square and level to where it was sitting in the garage, let's say. We looked at the cowl, and those are within just a little bit off, and it could be simple air pressure, in a tire or something like that, to where the driver's side needed to come up just a hair. Now with that, if you bring the driver's side up, as you look at this picture, that makes this even worse. Now I crawled underneath this car, and I looked it over, and the cross member that connects the two frame rails, there's the gap on either side where the oil pan meets is basically the same. Like if you moved it just a little bit towards the driver's side, it would probably end up hitting that frame rail or the cross member, the bolting cross member. So has anybody seen this? Are they familiar with the early cars having, situations like that? It looked to me, the engine mounts looked correct. The structure was all there. The frame rails were not bent. The shock towers were intact. There was really nothing that jumped out at me and said, hey, this is bent. So, you figure if a frame rail is bent, it's going to push not only the engine up, but the frame rail as well. And putting a bubble level across it, they were pretty close. So Robert's asking, does it have the stamped steel or the older cast iron mounts? It has the cast iron mounts. It has the original mounts in there. So, let me go back up to where I initiated that. Michael Elias is talking about the trim. Wouldn't you use zinc primer on aluminum? Yes, you can. Yeah, zinc chromate is typically used on like aircraft aluminum. But I don't know. I have not treated aluminum in this way, so I can't say what's good or bad. I know that self-etching primer is pretty good about bonding to just about anything, so that's why I was saying that. But zinc chromate could work as well. Travis, yes, the motor is tilted. And Troy says, I agree. It looks like a broken motor mount. The engine is leaning. Yes. We'll get this in. This is the Steve talking about the English wheel. I spent months looking at the wheel, but Harbor Freight said they had zero. He said we had one in a previous store he moved around for years. Okay. Robert says, was the customer in it? Easy to twist the sides without it, assuming good correct. Was the cross member in it? Sorry. Easy to twist the sides without it, assuming good correct mounts. Yeah, the cross member was in. Motor mounts were in the factory, looked like the factory location. I couldn't see any discrepancies. Worn passenger mount, nope. I couldn't see anything like that. Richard Vogel shock tower collapsing, nope. Shock tower was there and intact. One bad mount bad. It's possible. So Matt says different coil springs on driver's side versus passenger side. Well, that might account for a little bit of if the frame rails were out of square. But the engine is what's sitting crooked. A lot. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen, he put the engine, I think he took the engine out and put it back in. I don't know 100%. I know he did some work to it because it's got a new oil pan on it. There were some issues with that, but I couldn't see anything broken, anything damaged that would define it as being in the wrong spot. So, Steve Reed, what year? It's either 65 or 6. It has the big lumpy shock towers, like they had, and the spark plugs on the passenger side were the boots were hitting the shock tower, which is really weird. And as far as the choices, do I have pictures from underneath? No, I don't. I do not. But I looked this over. I took a flashlight down there and I went all different directions. And I couldn't see anything that was out of shape or bent. So, Robert says one wrong mount, maybe. I guess that's a possibility. I don't know for sure. I couldn't look at those mounts and go, well, this is the correct one. I wouldn't know the difference between them. But the weird part, as we talk about this, and I probably should have taken some pictures, the gap between the oil pan on both sides, the cross member and the oil pan, was nearly the same. And if you look at how far that's deflected over, you should see a big gap on one side and a tighter gap on the other, but they were almost the same. So I was really, really struggling with what's going on there. Um, Steve's Money Pit, mounting holes in block off. I guess that's a possibility. I don't know. I don't know if it was like that. I assume it was like that before when he took it out and worked on it. I don't know for sure. See, his concern was when he saw that, he was thinking that the car was twisted. And I did drop measurements, threw a level on it, all kinds of stuff, and I was like, no, the car is pretty close. The fenders, the cowl. I mean, you can see in my picture, if you just look across the cowl and the hood, even the height, if you were to take like a, I'm not saying do this, but a piece of paper and put it across the screen, you can see that the shock towers are relative to each other. The aprons look relative to each other. But there's something going on with that engine. And all this, I mean, he's going to be watching this if he's not already. So any input is going to be helpful, but we'll see what happens here. David says the motor mount bushing's worn. It's possible. Dwight, air cleaner bent? No, I don't think so. Whenever you look at it here, I mean, the air cleaner looked square to me, like it didn't look like it was deflected. But the engine itself is almost up against the passenger shock tower. So that's kind of a thing, like something's making it really out of the way. Richard was in a front end collision at one time. He thought it had been. The only thing, I didn't see any evidence of the strut rods being off or being replaced. I didn't see evidence of the brackets for the strut rods being bent or severely damaged. A lot of these will have bends and dings in them. These weren't bad. They had some minor stuff on them. There was no kinks in the forward apron. There were no kinks in the rear apron. And these were the original panels, especially on the driver's side. All of that was original. The core support, no damage to it. So if there was an impact that was bad enough to distort that stuff, you would see it. You would see the ripple effect. You would see kinks in the apron or compression of the core support or the frame rail having some sort of deflection to it. I couldn't see any of that. So it's probably, as I think about it more, that something to do with the motor mounts. And it could have been wrong from the factory. When they were putting these together, they were just slapping them together as fast as they could and get them down the line. It's not to say that I don't know if there's a difference between the mounts. I don't know if there's in different years. I don't know. But it's possible, that they did something and they grabbed the wrong one off the shelf and just put it on and that's close enough. Keep it moving, I don't know. Knock Bosco, motor mounts different size. That may be a possibility. Del Horvath, intake manifold mounted incorrectly. No, it actually runs. The car will run right like it sits. It's not out of not set up wrong. Matt, when I put my motor mount in my Mustang, I initially had the motor mounts on the wrong sides. Now see, that I don't know. I didn't ask him that question if he had taken them out and had taken the motor mounts off or not. I said that I don't know. Tim Miller, 2 brands of motor mounts, not same height, and one the same height, one correct height, and one not, I guess. Dave Tyson, Chevys had bad mounts that look like? I'm getting several bites of his comment. Troy Dust, that is hard to diagnose without putting eyes on it. Could be a broken or bent bolt on the passenger side. That's possible. C&J, can they set up a laser level, check frame and all? I'm sure you probably can. This was just a kind of an impromptu visit that I gave him just to get an idea and see what he was working on and try to get some input. But like I said, we took 2 rods, set them on the top of the frame rails. Okay, same length. Set those on top of the frame rails, put a piece of angle iron across, put a bubble level on top of that, and it was just barely touching the line on the passenger side. I took that same level, put it up on the cowl, and it was just barely touching the line on the passenger side, meaning that the car was just needed to come up a little on the driver's side. But that doesn't answer the question for the engine sitting so crooked. It just doesn't make sense. Matt says driver's side motor mount on both sides or some misplaced variation of them. That could be a very good answer. Could be. And Robert says, can't be the mounts that the pan is that straight unless the crossmember is bent. Maybe flip the crossmember around and see if it's the same gap. That's a good answer. That's a possibility. At least a way to check it. Okay, so Alan says the engine has not been out of the car. See, that really makes it even more interesting when you think about that. If the engine hasn't been out of the car, then this could be just really an odd thing from the factory. Could be. And you may end up having to pull more out, like get the engine up to get the mounts out of there and look at them. It may come to that. All right, let me get back up here a little bit. Alan, wait a minute. Bob Shoemaker says holes for frame mounts may be elongated. That's a possibility. But he just said it hasn't been out of the car, too. Shannon Vaughn, welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah. So Alan, it's Alan's car. Engine has not been out of the car. Not since he's had it. So it doesn't mean that it's not ever been out of the car. But he's had it, and that's the way he got it. So it's been like this. Steve Reed, there was 2 different style of motor mounts for V8, and the one style can be shimmed up to level it. It's just lower in the car with that one style. See, that's what I'm kind of wondering. Good answer, Steve. I'm wondering if, like you're saying, there's 2 different style of mounts. Maybe they just, and this maybe been from the factory. When they're going down the line and they're just grabbing stuff off the shelf and putting things together and sending it. Now I'm kind of wondering if there were, like you're saying, if there are 2 different style of mounts and they put the wrong mounts in, and this has been like this since it was new. That's a possibility. Tony Anziano, welcome, Tony. Engine mounts possibly installed on wrong sides. That is a possibility. Paul Naro, I'd get a set of Ron Morris mounts and be done with it. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Welcome. Hugh Phillips. Hello, Barry. This is my first time on your live stream. Well, thank you, Hugh. I'll take a sip of coffee in your honor then. How about that? Glad you're here. And I see you have a, 65 or 6, I think. It's hard to tell. Small thumbnail's very small on my screen. Dave Britton says, hello, finally here. Welcome, Dave, from the Great White North. Robert says cast iron brackets on the wrong side. The flat part goes forward. Okay, so Alan, you need to look at that. Tomorrow, take a look at the brackets and see what you got. The cast iron brackets on the wrong side. The flat part goes forward. Okay, thank you, Robert. Dave Conville, I just quickly looked at Vintage Mustang Forum. Crooked engine issues seem to be common. Okay, thank you, Dave. And that's what I was saying too. When we were looking at this, I have not. I pulled up pictures of other projects that I've worked on, and even the Mystique Mustang, it looked like the engine was canted slightly to the passenger side. Now it could be that that was maybe an optical illusion. I don't know, but it's also possible that the brackets are messed up, like we're all saying. And if they made two different brackets, it's very possible. Marty Peterson, looks to me like the engine is leaning towards the passenger side at the same problem with a 67 Cougar had a bed engine mount on the passenger side. Okay. Thank you, Marty. And that's exactly what it's doing. It is leaning to the passenger side. It is definitely leaning to the passenger side, and it's a lot. So, Alan, I think your task is to take things loose and kind of reshape that. You know, see what's going on with the mounts. Dave is also commenting that without going too far, people are commenting just to shim it. And that's from the Mustang Forum. I want to say, Mark, tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody mix and match motor mounts. It appears hypo and standard mounts are different, with the hypo being taller. That's a good point, too. I did not know that. That may be the case. And like I said, as these cars are coming down the line and they're just putting things together, it's very possible that they just grab one of these and grab one of those and put it on and see what happens. And it may have come off the line like this. So, Matt says, what about the transmission mount? Worn on the side or not tight? Yeah, that's something else that needs to be looked at. Robert, never out of the factory makes me wonder if the bosses on the engine were machined down too far on one side. And that's a possibility too. There's a lot of variables. Steve Reed, does it have headers on it? No, it does not. And Robert, cast on one side and stamp seal on the other, or possibly a mount for a different car, ended up in the bin, but was close enough. And that is a very possible situation. And regardless, it's odd, yes. Hugh Phillips, the profile picture is a 67 Coupe, 99% original. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like I said, the thumbnail is very small. It's a nice color. I don't know. I mean, it's blue, obviously, but it's really hard to tell from the thumbnail that I see. Tim Miller brake line flares. Can you show how to make nice looking? I don't know if I've ever shown making the brake line flares. Those are always a struggle, depending on the type of metal you're using. I know I've gone to that mixed metal instead of the old steel lines. I do the other ones that are, I don't know what it's called, the composite metal. It's softer. It's easier to manipulate. But I have not done video like that. Scott Hebert, joined late, but can it just be a broken motor mount? I guess that's a possibility. Welcome, Scott. I guess that's a possibility. Doug Pinzer says that is correct. Okay. Oh, wait. I missed Tall Red Easel. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Sorry for missing you. Let's see. I don't know what. Okay. I'll have to go back down here because Dave says that's correct, and I'm kind of out of sequence on that. Go back to where I am. Hugh Phillips, with the engine tilted that badly, wouldn't that affect the entire driveline, causing major vibrations? Not really. The engine, the engine doesn't care. Like, I believe it or not, I know we at the junkyard, my brother, let's say, dislocated an engine and had it completely. I don't know what degree angle it would be, but it was busted to mounts. And that thing stayed running, and it really didn't make much difference. Now, it could, obviously, if your index of the driveline changes and you got your drive shaft at weird angles and stuff like that. A slight rotation, probably wouldn't even notice because the engine doesn't care. It's just running. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. As long as everything else is on plane, it's probably going to be fine. So, good question, though. Robert, for your information, while on the subject, the sheet metal ones that start on late 66 are not the same as the 67 plus. One frame bolt fits the other. You have to weld up and re-drill just a hair different. Okay. Black GTX, Mark, yes. I found a diagram on the motor mount styles on the Vintage Mustang forum. Okay. And that may be somewhere Alan has to go too, is go to the Vintage Mustang forum and look at that. If people are already talking about it, we know it's a problem. But what's the generalized fix? And if it's not been a part, then that's really interesting. Hugh Phillips, factory paint, frost turquoise, paint code B. I like that. Frost turquoise, interesting. Thank you, Hugh. Bob Shoemaker, I've had blocks brought in the shop with the washers between the block and the mount that they left on it. Okay, well, there's some input. Steve's Money Pit, I don't know Fords, but Mopars had different vendors making same parts, not always identical. Yeah, good point. Tim Miller, carb float settings. Yes, that could affect it, definitely. Scott Hebert, if you power brake it, does the motor lift up? Would tell if the motor mount's broke. That's a good point. I don't know if he's done that. David, are you going to remove all of the weld tube primer coating on Fangled? I don't think so. And the reason for that, like, I did not remove it all on the Cobra Jet. I removed a lot of it, and I removed the bottom of it in particular. And the reason for that was the materials that we were using for the process, and the fact that Charles wanted it to look close to original, and that's why he bought the primers that we used and all that sort of thing. So it's not really necessary to remove all of it. I will remove everything on the exterior. I won't have any weld tube primer anywhere on the exterior of the car. All that's gone because I want epoxy to go straight to the bare metal. As far as the rest of it, the interior, there's nothing wrong with scuffing it and applying top coats to that. I know that the car won't be, it's not meant to be like a concourse restoration type of thing. So that's not that big a deal. But everything that's going to be exposed to the elements will be treated, will be, taken, like the exterior will be taken care of. Everything underneath will be, I'm not going to strip it down like the other car. It's just not necessary, especially since I know, and where this car is going and what it's going to be doing. It's an option, though. It is an option, but I just don't see it as being necessary for this particular build. The Cobra Jet was a whole different approach. Charles had specifically wanted those things done to the car to make it mimic how it came from the factory. So that's why I went more direct on that. But any exterior sheet metal, I won't let it. It all has to come off, and of course it'll get seam sealed and everything else. But there will be epoxy go down first before anything else happens to it. Good question. Dave Tyson. Thanks, Dave. Del Marine, just a quick hello, kiddo, bedtime, take care all. All right, thank you, man. Glad you were here. Matt, how long has Alan owned the car? He said Motormount hasn't been out, but has he owned the car its whole life? I'm guessing not, since it's a 60-year-old car. No, he has not owned it its whole life, but he has a pretty good idea of the timeline of where it's been. But he has not taken it out, is what I think he's implying. It's where it's came to him in that way. And if I remember, he told me that there was some damage to the oil pan itself. Now, I don't think that damage would have been something that would have caused a mount to shift. It's a possibility, but I don't know for sure. But I think he needs to dig further in that, taking stuff loose, like getting the front of the engine up, see if the mounts move. That'd be one of my first attempts, is get something under the front of it, so you can jack it up and see, even if they're both holding. If one comes loose, well, then you kind of narrow it down. Then I'd start looking at the designs and look up pictures of them and see what's going on between the two, and try to narrow it down piece by piece. But when I went to look at it, his concern was more about whether the body was twisted, because he saw the engine off and he's like, something's not right. And to me, it's not the body; it's the other parts, or the engine and parts associated with it. Daryl, awesome channel, Barry. By the way, I duplicated your alloy works setup, including the upgrade of the relay wiring and connectors like you did on Jade. Also, can you give a brief how to join Patreon? Yes. There should be, if you're interested in becoming a patron. Underneath all of my videos, there is a link for Patreon. And you just click on that link and follow the process. On my home page, on the header panel up on top, there's a banner. And there are highlights in that have, I think, an Amazon link, I think the clothing, t-shirt links, and the Patreon link as well. But every time I post something, you'll see it underneath where the description box is, and I talk about what the video is about. If you open that up, you'll see links to, like I said, Patreon, Amazon, various other products and stuff that I've shown or endorsed. So thank you for that, Daryl. And if anybody, I don't know if it shows up on, it should show up on this video, even on the underneath the video itself in the description box. There should be a direct link to Patreon. And if you just go to Patreon itself, patreon.com, and you look up Joe Daddy, it should pop up. So I encourage everybody to join that. Thank you, Daryl. Tim Miller, PPG EXP 901 primer, good stuff. Good stuff. Numbers are colors. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Steve Reed, one of the mount arms may be bent. I guess that's a possibility. Alan says he's owned the car about 5 months, was parked for over 20 years. Okay. Yeah, I think you've got, Alan, you've got some good input on ideas, things to look for. Double check the brackets themselves. If the mount brackets were not the correct set from the factory, it's possible its whole life it could have that engine sitting in there and nobody ever thought about it. It's possible. Go to the Mustang forums, do some searches on those, see what comes up, and maybe somebody else has said, hey, yeah, this mount was used from November of 64 to July of 65, and then they went to this mount. But in that transitional time, they may have said, oh, we're going to just keep using this one up till it's gone. You know how Ford was. They'll just keep throwing parts at it till they run out of those parts. So it's hard to say. Michael, Pagliarini, evening all, late to the party. That's okay. you're in charge of the donuts. Matt says, "Thanks, Alan. Good luck, and you'll have to keep us posted on what you find out." There, yes, definitely, and hopefully we can figure that out, and also, if I can't, maybe he can figure it out and send me some pictures so we can update everybody and see what's happening. Hugh Phillips, I think I might try your homemade jig idea you showed on a recent video with the boat trailer. That's a good idea. Boat trailers are cheap. Yes, they are. And, there's a variety of ways you can do it. I did it, and I did this in my mind as an aircraft mechanic, the way that I designed mine. And I'm just saying that because when you do aircraft maintenance, you approach things maybe from a different angle. The standard jigs are not that complicated. They have, you have your standoffs. They have a shock mount or the shackle mounts in the front or in the rear, shackle mounts mid, and different things like that. I've also seen pictures of other builds where, like, I do the side perch thing and to hold the pinch welds. So stuff like that. And I just brought in all the information I could from things that I've seen and my own ideas and just kind of went with it. Now, you could make it simpler, and if you had the boat trailer and you wanted to, you could basically either do what I did in a similar way, or you could even get square tubing and square it up on top of the trailer and then build your perches there, so you still have the same effect, but it's still mobile. So there's a variety of ways. There's no wrong way to do it, I guess. But yeah, it was worth building. Marcus Frisk, hi, running late. Hi all, welcome Marcus. Dave Tyson says, yes, we all lean with age. Yeah. Sometimes I get this cramp going and I got to stop. Rick Ain, I believe 66 mounts were a little bit taller. Perhaps the wrong year was installed on one side of the car. And that's exactly what I was saying. Ford did, and I know this from the junkyard experience, the book interchanges we had, the Hollanders, which I still have. I have, some of these Hollander interchange books these are from the junkyard. These were books me and my brother used. And you could look up a part and you would find the item you're looking for. And it might tell you that, in particular, like the Fords, this cylinder head was used from this time period to this time period. And then they went to this one. And so people would come looking for parts, and we would have to look up the date to make sure that it was the right one. So it's very possible that they did that. And I guess other manufacturers kind of did that too, but Ford seemed to be more prone to changing stuff mid-year and then just running with it. George Crackle, hey Barry. Hi Barry. Discovered your channel while you built the Brooklyn Pony. I've enjoyed your videos since. Thank you much for your time and information. Thank you, George. Appreciate that. Michael says, going right to the hips. Yeah, the donuts. Yep. Rick Ain, boat trailers are only cheap when you don't need them. Ask me how I know. Been around boats a long time. Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I got lucky. I got lucky with this. This was, I paid $200, but it had a boat on it that I had to get rid of. And I documented that in the videos. But yeah, $200, you couldn't beat it. Just the metal alone is worth more than $200. And that's the way I looked at it. Hugh Phillips, you were in the Air Force. Thank you for your service. No, I was not in the Air Force. I was in the Army. That's my old unit right there. 10th Mountain Division. I was an infantry soldier, combat soldier. Did all the crazy dumb stuff. Jumped out of airplanes and helicopters and trained in the desert and jungle and snow and yeah. I'm an aircraft mechanic by going to school for it. I went to A&P school, got my degree, and of course my license from Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics. So, been doing aircraft stuff, or I was doing aircraft stuff for about 30 years. I'm away from that now. Steve's Money Pit. Model year change cars last one and first one's built. I would say all had at least one part incorrect for model year. Bracket switch, I guess molding, something. Yeah. And there's those oddballs that you see them and there's like, it's like the 67 was kind of like that altogether. The 67, they just did a bunch of weird stuff. They're like, here's parts from a 66 and, well, here's some parts going into the 67 design, and some of these may end up in 68. We don't know. It was just it feels kind of weird the way they did all that. But it's how it worked out. Steve's Money Pit. Next week, I'll get into my boat trailer. Okay, awesome. Daryl, are you considering completing the entire Mach 1 on behalf of your deceased friend? I've considered it. I have considered it. But the problem I'm running into is initially, the initial agreement was for me to just do all the metalwork. Just get it together, get it straight, and get it not even really in the primer. He just wanted me to get all the metalwork done. And then, as time went on, we talked about it, and of course, he bought the primers and all that sort of thing, and I agreed to, as time went on, okay, I'll put it in primer. And of course, he passed away. And, his wife took over the project, and it's difficult for me to take on that project in the middle of it because I don't know the status of so many things. Like, I know there's complications going on with the engine and the transmission and the wiring and the accessories, and the direction has changed from where he wanted to go to where it's going back towards more of an original car. And so because of that, I don't know that I didn't really want to get to that point. I didn't want to be like, I ran into this, let's say, and I'm not saying this would happen, but I ran into this with the Brooklyn Pony project. I started building that car, and the intent was for me to turn that into a turnkey car. That was the plan. That plan changed. And what that ended up with was me being in limbo. Because I tried to only do one car at a time. Now, I may start on something just because I don't have anything else that I can do to the other project, in this case, paint. But I got hung out to dry on the Brooklyn Pony project, and that left a bad taste in my mouth. And, that guy completely dropped the ball on me. I was flowing along, had it going super nice. Things were coming together. And then he just faded out. I kept saying, I need parts, I need this, I need that, and it just didn't happen. And so I got hung out in the middle of it to where I was like, that's when I jumped back on Jade. I pushed his car. I had it in here for over, it was like a year and a half, and I kept begging him for parts. And I'm not saying it would be that scenario, but that is where my mind is. So I don't want to be caught up in that. So I ended up pushing his car out, put it in my house garage, got it out of the way, and I started jumping on Jade. And that's how I finished Jade, because I wanted to keep moving on something, right? And so I ended up, he came and got his car and took it away. And so my mind has been, well, where do I want to go with this now? Am I going to continue to do this idea of building a whole car? Or am I going to go to building the metalwork, which is ideally my focus? I would rather do metalwork all the time. That's my most satisfaction. Doing this sort of thing, I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Not to say that I can't do the other things, and this car is going to continue on. I'm going to do a lot to this car. But on the other car, because I don't know the variables, I don't want to be clinging in or hanging on to something, waiting, or it just makes it more difficult. So I didn't plan to paint the car. but I decided to because I knew that it would be more difficult for them to get it painted because paint shops don't want to follow up somebody else's work. So at that point, had I done all the body work to it and put it in primer, it would have went to another shop and they would have stripped all that off and said, we don't trust what he's done because we don't know. And I get that. So by me painting it, I'm making it easier for that process. So at this point, I do plan to do all the paint work, maybe some other things. I'll put the stripes on it. I'll probably maybe put some door handles on it just so they're latched and they function. But I don't know. I don't want to get into all the other stuff. It's just not something I want to deal with at this point. And I want to keep moving forward and keep the ball rolling, so to speak. And that's where this car comes into play. I already know where this car is going. I already know there are parts waiting for me to get. They're already bought. They're already sitting. And basically I can make a phone call and say, hey, bring me those parts. And they're going to probably be here within a week. Just saying. So that's where my mind is right now. I have considered it, but I'm just also very much like, I don't want to get caught in the middle of all that. So maybe not the best answer, but that's at least where my mind is. So good question, Daryl. Alan, thanks for the input. I will look at the ideas and thank you all. We'll keep Barry Post updated. Thank you, Alan. I'm sure everybody will be interested. Rick, in 2003, I saw a brand new Forester on the dealer lot with molding rounded on one side and squared on the other. The dealer was surprised that the visually impaired guy was the one who pointed it out. Yeah. They don't look at stuff at all. They just get it in and out the door. I get it. Rick, I have to say I chuckled when you said some other body shop wouldn't trust your work. Yeah. Well, and I get it because I could tell them that, oh, I used this product and that product. And if they don't watch my videos, they're not going to care anyway. But when it comes to something as far as a paint job goes, the guy who sprays it takes responsibility for everything under it. That's just the way it is. And so if they sprayed that car and it turned out beautiful, yes, they get all the credit for it. If they sprayed that car and something happened to it, paint peeled off or whatever, they get the credit for it. So I understand I understand that point, and so that's why I'm like, okay, I'll paint it. But that's all I'm going to do. That's all I want to do. I've got other things in the mix, and this car will be getting my attention for now, and then I'm going to pause on this car and finish the paintwork on the Cobra Jet. That has to happen so that not only can they get it back, but it also frees up my space and it frees up room in the garage for other things to happen. So yeah, that's a good question though, and I'm glad you asked that, honestly, because I know people are curious and they want to know. But we're at a point where I know I have 73 viewers right now, but I'm probably going to end up closing out the live stream. As I've mentioned before, you've seen the video where I was doing the mock-up of this. I still have more to do fine-tuning wise, getting stuff, where I want it and I'm satisfied with it. I will be, in fact, I'm probably going to order a set of, I'm not going to order a set of door hinges. I am going to order a rebuild kit so I can use the original hinges, but make sure that they're done correctly. So I'm going to get those coming, and I will be doing a test fit of the doors, the fenders, all that stuff before I ever do any welding. Doesn't that, that's the way I work. So, anywho, that's going to be it for tonight. I do appreciate everybody being here. If you haven't already, go look at the Patreon link down below. If you want to be part of it, that's fantastic. If not, I get it. I understand. So, other than that, I do plan to be. I see no reason why I won't be here next Monday night I know there's some things going on around the weekend, but I should be back here no problem Monday night at 7 o'clock. I hope to hear from you then. But that'll be it for tonight. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.